Precision Health Live. I'm your host, Leanne Alfaro from NASDAQ, and today we are going to be talking about the challenges and opportunities for blood tests for diseases like Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, and ALS. This is such an important discussion, given it affects millions of people globally that suffer from these diseases. So today we're coming to you live from PPH right here in Barcelona. And what is PPH? It is a nonprofit organization with the mission of transforming healthcare from today's paradigm of scrambling to treat disease later in the progression to one focused on precision and personalized treatments early in the disease cascade. That means before symptoms present, using cutting-edge biomarker, early non-invasive detection technology. So joining me right now to tell us a little bit more about it is Kevin Hrusovsky, founder and chairman of Powering Precision Health. Thank you for joining us.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
So start by telling us a little bit about why we're here today and what is PPH.
So basically, it's somewhat of a movement because anytime you have a disruptive technology, getting it to actually be used on patients can take 10 to 15 years. And so what we've done is we've assembled some of the greatest thinkers in the world, but we've added to it some of the policymakers, some of the regulators, as well as many of the innovators that can actually move the needle to collaborate and talk through ways to accelerate getting these technologies to the patient through many of the doctors that are in this room.
And one of the biomarkers that we've heard a lot about today is neurofilament light, or NFL. So Quanterix, the company you're chairman and also CEO of, NASDAQ listed, sponsors this conference. It's also a key player for NFL. So tell us about what NFL is and what the future of NFL looks like.
Absolutely. It's quite interesting. NFL, we actually won the NFL award with General Electric. Quanterix did back about 5 years ago for head health challenges, where the NFL was actually interested to try to understand how to measure concussions and to help the athletes that play football to actually be preventative in some of the issues that concussions represent. Coincidentally, there's an NFL called neurofilament light, which is an axon in your neurons. There's an axon comes off your neurons. When it dies, it basically is a filament that goes into the cerebral spinal fluid. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it's something that we could actually measure with our exquisite sensitivity. So the more neurons that die, the higher the NFL level. And so that has become a breakthrough to be able to see non-invasively through blood brain health from whether or not your neurons are dying faster than they should be.
That's absolutely incredible and definitely tangible, as you've explained. It affects people every day. Now, let's meet the man who was instrumental from a research perspective to getting NFL on the map. Let's bring up our first guest. Jens, thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to meet you. Hello.
Now, you've authored more NFL studies than we can count. So tell us, what has made it such a powerful biomarker?
Well, NFL is a neuron-specific protein, and neuronal degeneration is the substrate of persisting disability. And in neurology, we often are lacking quantitative measures to account or to quantify neuroaxonal injury. So we started off to compare different patient groups and controls and saw a quite strong signal in blood measures with this Simoa technology. And we do see that especially in MS, levels correlate with disease activity, treatment response, and also has predictive capacity there.
You've, of course, done extensive research on this. What do you see as the biggest opportunity?
The biggest opportunity in MS I see as a means of treatment monitoring. There are different options of treating MS patients nowadays, and we are far away from doing precision decisions in treating our patients there. So this is the main aim or the main use application. A second one would be to facilitate trialing, especially in progressive MS. I see the second chance there, really.
And Kevin, tell us, what do you think needs to be done to take neurofilament light to the next level?
My view on this is that this is an opportunity to look non-invasively in blood to see disease progression of MS. And today, the MRI is being used, and it's a very effective tool, but it can be very delayed in figuring out whether or not MS is having an issue with the particular patient. It might take a couple years before brain atrophy might hit an MS patient. And I think the work that Dr. Jens and others are doing around the world might allow you to see this a lot sooner to get you on the best medication quicker. And that might lead to keeping people out of wheelchairs in the end from an MS, disease pathology. If you can actually get them on the right drug quicker, it actually could have a benefit of preventing them from being debilitated.
Absolutely, and that's so crucial to have that time to detect early on. Thank you, Jen, so much for joining us. Now that we've learned a little bit about NFL, let's hear from some disease state experts and see what the future holds for NFL as well as other biomarkers. So let's meet our next guest. All right, we are joined by Professor Elizabeth Thijssen from Amsterdam UMC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, your work focuses on biomarkers in Alzheimer's, so start by telling us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so we are trying to develop a blood test for Alzheimer's disease and seeing whether what we measure in blood also really reflects the Alzheimer's pathology that we see in the brain with PET imaging and MRI, for instance.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin, how does this work resonate with the work that you do in your industry?
It's incredible because Alzheimer's happens to be one of these diseases where there's a lot of speculation that the disease might start 10 to 15 years before you actually experience dementia. So if you can use biomarkers to see in the blood much earlier in the disease pathology, maybe it'll lead to actually getting some Alzheimer drugs approved, which has been one of the biggest challenges. There's really no disease-altering medication today for Alzheimer's. And so there's so many people around the world already afflicted with it, and it's going to become a very big disease as time goes on. So anything we can be doing to look in blood to see the disease earlier could lead to breakthroughs in medicinal agents.
There's certainly a lot of positive momentum. So let's talk about some of the challenges. What are some of the challenges when it comes to Alzheimer's and biomarkers?
Well, we now see that our blood test actually works, but these are highly selected subgroups of like 300, 400 patients. And I think the challenge now is to see whether this also works in thousands of patients and in medical centers all around the world.
So while there's a lot of challenges, I'm sure there's nothing that, when the community comes together that we cannot resolve. I mean, after all, we did put man on the moon. So let's meet our next guest, focusing on TBI and concussions with biomarkers. Welcome Henrik to the stage. All right, welcome Henrik. We've heard a lot about NFL and Alzheimer's. So talk to us about the work that you're doing with TBI and concussion on blood-based biomarkers.
Concussion is something very common, and if you get a hit to the head, it's sometimes hard to tell if the brain was impacted or not by that hit. And there we use neurofilament light as an objective measure of whether axons were disrupted by the hit.
And Kevin, great press that Quanterix has been a part of has been around head health. So there's certainly an appetite for this work. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Henrik has done with his team has just been game-changing. And I think that concussions is such a subjective area, and anything you can do to get some objective proof that there's been a concussion and then evidence of whether the concussion is improving or not can help patients around the world.
And Henrik, talk to us about the challenges versus the opportunities in this space.
Yeah, the challenges are, there are multiple challenges, but we have a good biomarker test that we know. We need to learn more about exactly when to take a sample to get the best measure of whether or not the brain was impacted by a hit. And we also need to learn what a meaningful biomarker change is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Henrik, for your insight. And let's meet our next guest. We have plenty of experts here in the room. Our next guest is paving the way for MS in clinical settings. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Aburashed.
How you doing, pal?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we've seen pioneering work from your team at Memorial Healthcare. How are you using biomarkers?
So earlier this year, we started using neurofilament light specifically to monitor real-world MS patients ranging in age from 18 and up. And we've been able to really track patients on a variety of different treatment modalities. And the fact that these are our patients who we see in clinic, we really get kind of a broader, more global understanding of what the protein actually might mean.
Certainly trailblazing in your space. What are some of the challenges you see ahead?
So I think there's a lot of challenges, and one of the big ones is controlling enthusiasm, I think. I think you want to be very optimistic because that drives passion, but you also want to be very guarded in terms of interpretation, so you don't want to over-interpret what you're seeing. But at the same time, I think this is a new marker for us in a disease space where we really need individualized care. That really is the best way for multiple sclerosis care moving forward because of the variety of different drugs available and because the disease itself is very variable from patient to patient. So this is a great space for neurofilament to kind of fill that gap, hopefully.
And personalized care is a lot of what Quanterix focuses on. So Kevin, what are your thoughts on this?
I have to say what Rany and his team are doing, even though it is in the state of Michigan, I'm an Ohio State Buckeye, so I want to make sure you have a Buckeye. What he's doing for the world is actually bringing it to clinical practice. And so he's daily trying to figure out the equations and the algorithms to take the biomarker information and to apply it to patients personally. And this is, in the end, what we're really trying to do as a movement is to get this to the patients, get them to help patients. And we do believe that the breakthroughs that Dr. Rany and others are doing right now are beginning to show evidence, real validated, third-party, peer-reviewed evidence that these technologies can help MS patients and understand the disease situation and the progress that's being made against the disease.
Absolutely.
Well, we certainly look forward to keeping up with all the progress coming along in Memorial Healthcare. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
We are rounding out our panel here, everyone, so let's meet our final guest. All right, welcome Dr. Mark Frasier to the stage. We'd like to hear a little bit from the nonprofit side when it comes to biomarkers, and that just so happens to be the space you specialize in. So talk to us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So I work at the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and we are a nonprofit, and we fund research all over the world with this specific goal to accelerate new treatments for Parkinson's disease. And a big part of that research is developing better ways to measure and diagnose Parkinson's disease so that when new drugs come available, you can really tell whether the drugs are making an impact on the disease.
And it seems like orgs like Michael J. Fox and PPH have to work together to really drive momentum forward. Kevin, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Michael J. Fox is one of these individuals that all of us know, and he has this personal touch to Parkinson's that he's awakened so many people around the world to the possibilities of finding a cure. And the work that Michael J. Fox and the team are doing are funding a lot of the top scientists that are in this room trying to find advances, not just with NFL, but even we heard earlier around alpha-synuclein and other types of biomarkers that could help yield the opportunity to really bring an end to Parkinson's. And I know that's what Michael J. Fox inspires all of us to do, and so it really helps a lot to have that kind of inspiration behind the movement.
And talk to us about the partnership perspective and what that means for perhaps other organizations.
Yeah, I think it's all about collaboration, and it's not like who has the best answer, who's the smartest person in the room. This is a group of very intelligent people that have been willing to kind of back down and listen to others to see what they can learn from each other and then to collaborate around it. So collaboration is so important, not only at a partnership level for, say, advocacy, patient advocacy, but even the intellects that are in this room, them working together to come up with an answer is going to get the answer so much faster than if they all worked individually in their own labs. So this collaboration is so important to advancing against many of these neurodegenerative diseases.
And it's certainly a common thread we've heard all throughout today. So Mark, we've heard a lot about challenges and opportunities around the biomarker revolution. For you personally in the nonprofit space, what's one opportunity and challenge you see?
Well, for Parkinson's disease, one of the challenges is that the disease is very heterogeneous. That means it's variable from patient to patient. So it's very difficult to predict how one might progress in the illness. And so the opportunities are that we're developing better biomarkers and better measurements that actually can identify different subgroups of Parkinson's. And another opportunity is that there's a very robust development pipeline of new treatments and clinical trials that we think might slow the progression of Parkinson's. So we're tremendously excited about the pipeline.
As are we. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Now, Kevin, based on this conversation that we've had on blood testing for diseases like Alzheimer's, MS, ALS, Parkinson's, what's one takeaway you would have for our audience?
Well, first of all, the people that are sponsoring Powering Precision Health, you mentioned Quanterix, an incredible company. There's probably 20 of the top employees in the world sitting in this room. But then you have Abbott Labs, you have Siemens, you have Biogen, you have a lot of pharmas, a lot of banks. They're all kind of going after the cause. And I would say that it's working together, making sure that we continue to fund real research that's moving the needle, and it's actually peer-reviewed publications that help us validate to ensure what we're doing here really is validated clinical science is so important. And I think the group here has been very responsive, very energetic, and you can feel the progress in the room.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us, for providing your insight. Now, for anyone wanting to learn more information, hear a little bit from these panels, please feel free to head on over to poweringprecisionhealth.com. There you will find not only these panels, but how to get involved in the biomarker revolution. Until then, all of us are here signing off from Barcelona at the Powering Precision Health Summit.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.